We are going to continue the show, and we're talking about Alabama, as most of the college football community waits to see what Kalen DeBoer can do in his first fall coaching the Crimson Tide. We are keeping tabs on his first offseason of recruiting at Alabama. This month will prove huge as he puts together his first official class, and the work began over the weekend with visitors in T-Town. So let's keep the Tide talk rolling and welcome in our friend Brett Greenberg of Bama 24/7. And Brett, I got to ask you about 3 crystal balls that went in for one player over the weekend. You put in one for SMU quarterback commit Keelon Russell. What makes you so confident that he can flip from SMU to the Tide?
Yeah, Tom hit on it a little bit earlier in the show, but in talking with Keelon, Duncanville High School quarterback before the visit, kind of felt like Alabama was in a very good spot heading into the trip. Talking with some people after the trip, talking with Keelon himself Sunday afternoon, felt really even better about my crystal ball prediction that I put in on Saturday afternoon. He talked about the connection he has with Nick Sheridan, the connection he has with Kalen DeBoer, the depth chart he talked about, the offensive scheme he talked about. He also mentioned how his host was Ryan Williams. We've seen Ryan Williams, his ability to get a couple people in the class and his ability to recruit. So anytime he's around and his name's brought up, that's a very good thing. And, one thing he also talked about is he just felt like the red carpet treatment all weekend. His family was in town. He's talking about how his parents loved it. His sister loved it. There was many coaches around him at all times. It just, very clear to him and his family that he is quarterback one on the Alabama board, and quite frankly, may be the only quarterback on this board. Like Tom Lowe was mentioning, I still feel really good about my crystal ball. Last check, he has an official visit to Florida this weekend, Oregon to wrap up June. He's planning on taking those visits. That'll be one thing to monitor. But right now, I like Alabama where they stand to eventually flip the SMU quarterback commit.
Would be a huge pull for the Crimson Tide in the Lone Star State. And Brett, I know Alabama and every other SEC program wants to recruit the state of Texas. I don't know if it would be an overreaction if I said they fell short of that last cycle. Only one top 24/7 prospect from the state of Texas in that class. And that brings me to my next point. Ty Haywood, his official visit. What's the latest there as Alabama tries to reel that one in?
Yeah, this is, one that we've been following kind of quietly the last couple of weeks, on Bama 247, kind of been hitting on it. I think, Alabama was in a good spot going into this visit, maybe better than people thought. This is a guy who grew up in Mississippi, grew up watching Alabama, said he's been watching Alabama since he's 5 years old. His mom likes Alabama. This was his first visit, and it seems like he maybe didn't even know how much he was going to enjoy it. Similar to Keelon Russell, Kalen DeBoer was around him. Quote, he said, basically the whole time that weekend. So it was very clear that he's a priority for the University of Alabama. He loves Coach Cap. He had a little bit of a relationship from Coach Cap's brief stint at Baylor. So this is one that I think Alabama may be in the lead for. I'm not ready to put any crystal ball or anything like that, just with a bunch of visits set. You've got A&M, Oklahoma, and FSU in that order to round out June. But, for right now, coming out of the weekend, it seems like Alabama is in a very, very good spot for the 5-star tackle out of Texas.
A lot of high-profile visitors on campus this weekend. I want to ask you about Todd Robinson, currently listed as a running back on our website, but it sounds like Alabama will be recruiting him as a defensive back. What are you hearing overall about his second official visit to Alabama? Yeah,
so like you said right there, it's a little bit of a unique prospect, down in South Georgia, Valdosta, very good style of football, very high level of football, plays quarterback for them, lights it up. And now teams like Georgia, Alabama, a few others really want him at that safety, even nickel role. And I asked him kind of quite point blank yesterday, is that something you want to do? And he said, absolutely. And, likewise to a lot of defensive backs we talked to, that 4-2-5 defense that Kane Womack brought in, that extra defensive back not only has that versatility factor, but the ability to maybe get on the field a little bit earlier. That's just kind of an added bonus for him. Absolutely loves Coach Maurice Linguist, loves Coach Colin Hitchler, spent a bunch of time with them. He's got an OV set to Georgia this weekend and a couple others, but I like where Alabama stands, but like with a lot of Peach State guys, it's going to be tough to get them out of the state just with the way, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are recruiting.
Brett, I think if you told a few Alabama fans that Nick Saban would have retired and that they would be number 8 in the recruiting rankings heading into the summer, I think a lot of people would be taking that, right? I think they'd say, oh, we've done a really good job. They are still working on several other prospects. Who else is on Alabama's radar heading into the summer?
Yeah, I think, there's a whole bunch of them, but we'll start with Dawson Merritt off the top, who's set to officially visit this weekend. He's kind of point blank said it explicitly. It's down in Nebraska and Alabama for the number 6 linebacker in the country. He will play that Wolf position should he end up going to Alabama. But this one's coming down to Alabama and Nebraska. He's getting to Alabama one more time this weekend. Absolutely loves this entire staff. Had a lot of prior relationships from the Washington days. Right now, I'm kind of 50-50 just between the Cornhuskers and the Crimson Tide. But I think, another good visit at Alabama is going to maybe turn the tide a little bit. And I think it goes into decision mode shortly after that. So that'll certainly be one to follow this weekend. And then another one I'm looking at as well, and he'll be down there this weekend as well, is another top 247 offensive tackle, Michael Carroll, who Alabama hosted for the spring game up in April. And it seemed like at the spring, Alabama was kind of the leader at one point. Now he's got visits to Michigan and Penn State coming up as well. Most people I talk to feel like Alabama and Michigan are in the best spot going forward for Carroll. But we're going to see how that shapes up this weekend. And the next guy we're looking at is another guy in the trenches, West Coast, 3-sport athlete, Jackson Lloyd, 4-star offensive tackle. You can never have too many offensive tackles in the trenches. And this year, certainly, it seems like it's kind of a up year at the position as a whole. He visited up in January, returned in March for a spring practice, spent more time with Chris Kapilovich, the offensive line coach, has great relationships with all the Washington staff from the Washington recruitment. He's got USC lined up. He's got Ohio State lined up. So that'll be one to monitor as well.
So many prospects to keep up with this time of year. Brett, we got to let you get on with the rest of your day. I'm sure you could just keep listing all of these guys, but we appreciate you being here. And if you want to read more about some of those prospects, you can head to Bama247.com from softball coverage to the recent news that Nick Saban is on the ballot for induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. I wonder if he gets in. You can check it all out at Bama247.com.